Welcome to this webinar on, well, I'll be talking about the messaging needs for a product launch. Many of the registrants are current product marketing professionals, so I'm sure some of these materials will be a repeat. But hopefully the overall theme of this sets perspective on what are all the aspects, what possibly one corner niche area that you might be missing, and having thought of that in advance would probably help plan your launch process slightly better and not cause a last minute panic as to, oh, we didn't think about this and we need to go build that material. So jumping right in, as part of a product launch, what questions do we need to answer? And having gone through this process a few times, I arrived at these three. So if we can effectively answer these three questions as part of the launch for the audience we are trying to reach, whether it's influencers, whether it's buyers, whether it's practitioners that use our product, we would have done well for the most part. And what do these questions really mean? The first is the why. And the why is core product messaging. What you're trying to say here is, why is this product actually useful to the audience that you're trying to reach, whether it's the buyer, the influencer, the practitioner? What do you have if it's a new product that is going to change the marketplace and make your customer's life easier? Or if it's a new update, if it's a new major release, or even a minor release, what do you have in it that makes it that gives the user a good reason as to why they should adopt this newer version? And at least consider trying it out and taking the trials and the betas or whatever state we are in to say, does this product add enough value for me to go through the pain of either adopting a new product or updating to a newer version? So on core product messaging, the one thing that we strive for is that it should be relatively static. We shouldn't change our minds about core product strategy too often. And what that means is that it stands for a market cycle, so many months, maybe a year. If you do really well, then maybe it stands to the next major release where, at that point, it's probably okay for us to have evolved in the marketplace and choose a different path slightly, not a completely different one, but somewhat along the same lines, but a slight shift. Now, in the modern world where a lot of product is SaaS-based, cloud-based delivery, we are putting out new product on a daily basis almost, if not weekly. That can change pretty fast. But, I say, the next major release could be next week. But once again, core product messaging needs to stand that test of time. And some of the reasons that you give to your customers for adoption must hold for longer, even though you might make product releases fairly frequently. The usual methods we use for core product messaging are product web pages. So on your company, on your corporate website, you'll have actual descriptions of product. You'd have some of your core messaging. You could have short talking head type videos where leadership, PMMs talk about why the product is important, what makes it of value. Can be backed up with some infographics. We often use animations to kind of show how value is realized. And I bring that up because rarely do you show actual product screens when talking about core product messaging. I have seen examples of that being done, and usually that becomes a little too detailed to engage the audience you're trying to reach with this sort of information. Who owns product messaging? Obviously product marketing. Now in some companies I have seen product marketing and product management fairly intertwined and often the same people. And sometimes they're completely separate functions. So that needs to be taken into account. And the primary area of why we use product messaging is, to raise awareness, to kind of convince people that it's the right thing to do. And some of the access to the material can be, somewhat restricted. You don't want it too restricted because you want as many people to see this as easily and as seamlessly as possible. This is not, in general, your lead generation mechanism. So that you want to go very broad, and whenever you have any barriers to people being able to access this content, it causes a problem. So, leave it fairly open, but, if you have an online launch event or even the actual, on-site event where you're inviting your big customers, then that may be an opportunity for using this material as a way to get some leads. Next, we move to the what portion of it. The what portion is the next level of detail. So you already had a why. You said, this is why this product is awesome. You kind of have to back it up with a little bit of what information. What features do I have in the product that make it awesome? So specific capabilities in terms of features and functions, maybe differentiate the product against the competition. And if you're updating the product, going from a major version to the next one, then kind of talk through what are the features that you have that has been recently introduced that make it a more compelling product to adopt. Now, the one thing here is that while the overall messaging is considered very static, we need to be able to react somewhat in our what messaging. And the reason for that is that if you have, as an example, you have something that you said, hey, I have this new version of product. It has this feature and it's better than the competition. What if the competition leapfrogs you? So at that point, you need to be able to react to choose something else as the killer feature function because your old messaging is now not quite as effective. So for that reason, making sure that this content is something that you're able to react to market conditions, what kind of barriers customers are perceiving. So if you put out a product and for the first 2 months, customers that adopt it and start complaining about the performance issues in a specific function or something like that, and you have a better way of doing it that avoids that, then you might need to highlight those. So you need to be able to react a little bit. So you need to make sure that the medium that you use is something that you have the ability to update easily without running into massive red tape, should you have it in your corporation, as far as sometimes corporate web pages are difficult to update, as an example. If you have videos or something like that, then have the ability to update it. The videos in general tend to be more difficult to update if they are very finished and you have to use external agencies to create them. So have that understanding that once you choose a medium like that, have the budget to go rebuild those if you need to, etc. Now, on the what messaging, most of the material comes from product management, and they are obviously working with product marketing, technical marketing, corporate functions, corporate marketing, if you have a separate group for that, to kind of update this, to collaborate and work on this material. Final finish may fall on another group, but product management finally determines what are these features that we have introduced in the current version that would be compelling value and back up our why messaging. Next, the how. And this is the part that actually backs up the product, the why and what messaging with real evidence. So even at the what messaging, while you might have a screenshot or two of actual product, you're still trying to talk at the feature function level. And having done, all our customers have seen software vendors pitch to them for many years. So, vaporware and those things often come to their minds. So the how part of the messaging is what proves to the customer, to the customer's practitioner, who is the most skeptical very often, that you do have the features and capabilities that you're talking about. A normal set of barriers that the practitioner has is, yeah, you might have that feature, but I have to jump through so many hoops and it's so difficult to configure that I probably will need a 6-month consulting project to get it off the ground. So being able to show that you can easily configure it could be a way to lower that barrier. Actual usage. So you might have a feature that works, but can a practitioner actually take time out of his day and use it? Or is it so cumbersome to use that they're never going to get around to it? What integrations do you have, and can you display those integrations in a quick manner? That here, 3 clicks, you're integrated with whatever else you needed to work with, right? Some reporting functions. If you have a marketing product, then Salesforce integration, for example, or something like that, Marketel, or wherever else you're collecting leads and putting them into a system. If you can show those things work seamlessly, easily, then it makes it makes the practitioner more comfortable recommending to the buyer, the influencer, that yeah, I looked at it. It does seem to be very easy to use. It does seem to have everything that they're promising. I've actually been able to walk through some of the things that the product can do, and it does seem easy. So over here, now the other parts of this is content needs are extremely dynamic. Barriers to sales change, on a weekly basis sometimes, and being able to add new material to make sure that what is now being faced by your sales engineers, your account managers as the major barrier, you have material to back it up. The how content is actually going to both your own field and partners as well as to your customers. And you can differentiate between what part goes to who. But being able to quickly react to what these guys, what your customers are saying they can't do easily, and being able to iron that out quickly can be of great value. So if you have 5 chapters of material on a configuration piece, and you realize that there is a jump between chapter 2 and 3 that customers are not able to navigate on their own, even though it seemed obvious to your engineers that should be easy. Well, it doesn't matter whether engineers continue to think it's easy. It's time to introduce chapter 2.5 and add that material in. So, in this area, it's very important that you have your ear to the ground. Field and partner input is extremely important. Listen to your customers as to where they're facing difficulties. And actually, not just that, also realizing what part of the product is causing customers to be excited and adopt. Because then, it might be time to evolve your what messaging to include some of those areas, because more customers may think the same way. So having your ear to the ground in this area is very, very important. Being able to track usage, what material is getting used a lot, what kind of searches are people looking for and are doing, and then what kind of searches are we returning inadequate material on is another area that can be of very, very great use. So the normal mediums over here, we use a lot of product walkthroughs. So a full demo can be difficult. Especially for complex infrastructure type setups where setting it up is painful. So being able to show a few screenshots as you walk through and get something done can be a very effective way of showing what the product capabilities are. Videos are common. Videos where you walk, there is a voiceover that walks through what's happening on the screen, and pretty much, a lot of how is about screenshots. So you're walking through as a certain function is performed as part of the product, and keeping these videos short. So basically cutting it down into smaller pieces. So you're making them less than 3 minutes each is something that I recommend. And, it basically has a good effect of holding the customer's attention. Videos are non-interactive. So, there's a possibility that the user gets into a catatonic state when it's longer than a certain length. We find 3 minutes to be very effective in being able to communicate a small feature and yet engaging enough to keep the customer's attention. Blogs are another medium that can be very effective at that. Once upon a time, all of us did a lot of white papers, 40 pages that took 3 months to develop and went through 7 weeks of reviews before it could be published as a PDF. And what we learned over time was that the number of downloads we were getting for those PDFs were small. Trackability was poor. Figuring out if a customer actually made it to the end of a PDF is impossible. So for all of those reasons, it's something that we moved away from. And being able to have more trackable content, more live pages, when connectivity was a big issue, it might make sense for people to be able to download and consume offline. It's less and less of an issue today. So having live pages that people can consume content over, and you can actually track how much content is getting used, is much more useful. Now, ownership for the why content, the how content usually falls with technical marketing organizations within the product team. Now, once again, depending on the organization, some of this may be fairly jumbled up, and all of these, the PM, PMM functions may be very well intertwined with technical marketing. And there is some level of engineering input that usually comes into the how part of it, because engineering has thoughts on how the product should be used, and sometimes those methods can end up being convoluted, and that's where the conversations around what we can do to make that simpler often happen, and updates come up. A few other things to think about as we think of a launch. We very often, as product teams, we are very focused on prospects and customers, and making sure that new customers adopt and current customers upgrade, etc. But we do have field and partner needs that we need to take care of at launch. Some of these upgrade paths, if there are, how does a customer who is version, two versions behind actually move to the current product? If there is a special requirement there, they might have to go through an intermediary step, for example, then that's something to carefully educate your field on. There are packaging and pricing updates, especially if you're taking features away from editions, then that can be a major issue. If you're adding features, if you are adding something that was in a very high level edition and now it's moving to a lower level edition, that can also be an issue, because customers may want to downgrade, saying that was the only one I was using in the higher edition. Why do I want to continue to pay for that? So those are some things that you need to educate your field on, that is separate from your customers. Marketecture representations that your field can use to kind of walk customers through some of the product updates. And demo environments, if your product actually requires more than just a walkthrough and a customer isn't convinced without actually seeing a live demo, then that's something that you need to take care of and make sure you are giving an easy way for your field to either access demo environments back at corporate or be able to easily create one for themselves. Now, we found a lot of success in creating simulated demo environments that look like real product, but were actually piped demos where you simulate mouse movement and keyboard entries and you move through the product. And it was a live enough experience that customers often said, I don't really need to see a live demo anymore, but may not work for everybody. Obviously, as part of launch, and we kind of mentioned this earlier as part of the what, we need to have some competitive info available for our field. And, you obviously want to think about your primary name competitors and be ready to update those, because those change fairly rapidly depending on who's having traction in the market. And then also think through some market segments and where different competition will crop up. Even though a competitor may not be significant in a specific market segment, they might be painful enough for your field that they'll need additional information on that. Once again, it is very important that you have your ear to the ground for these things. Competitors and strengths change as your competitors update products. And being able to keep a track on what competitors are being searched for by your field can give you a good idea of of how to react to the competitive information you already have out there, what of it is actually working, and what you don't have enough of, and what competitors have now cropped up that you actually need to feed your field information on. If you have a global product, then localization is often a problem, and localization can add significant lead time, anywhere up to 6 weeks or 8 weeks of time to create translated content. Excuse me. I'm trying to beat this cold for the last few weeks. Haven't succeeded yet. So the needs on localization may actually vary depending on whether you're trying to get to the field versus this is a direct-to-customer material. Very often, a customer may need localization to consume content, but your field may be okay. We also found, excuse me, we also found that some material is easier to consume non-localized than others. Videos, for example, we found were very difficult for non-English speaking geographies to consume easily. And so once again, there things like product walkthroughs can be very effective in communicating content in an easier fashion. So one of the things that we added to our platform was the ability to add additional localized files to existing content. So the content was separate from the actual annotations, and the annotations were an XML file that we could easily take and translate, and that made addressing localization needs post-fact much easier. If you actually have a early access / beta program, then getting customer stories and references ready at launch can be very, very effective. So if you have a customer ready to talk about the new features that you talked about in the what section, then that can be a great convincing tool that you actually have what you say you do. And additional considerations, continued existing content. So this is something that becomes a major problem. Very often our product is evolving and we are choosing new paths for our product. And the story that we told 18 months ago or even 9 months ago can be very different from the story we are telling today as the product is evolving and we are reacting to market conditions. Making sure that some of that old material is gone is important. If there are promises made in the old material saying that, hey, the next release will have this, and the next release does not, because we finally couldn't deliver, then it's very important that, we address those. I'm not saying just go blow them up, but at the same time, being explicit about the fact that that was expected, hasn't happened, but now is expected to happen at so-and-so time, or so-and-so release without specifying a time, is important because it's a matter of credibility. So those are some of the things that, kind of looking at the old product pages, the old conversations we had, the old representations we had for product. It's important to go ahead and look at those. Sometimes it causes confusion to have old material still out there, especially if it's a SaaS product where the old product really doesn't exist. So why have the old material out there anymore at all? So that was kind of my checklist of things to think through as you think about a product launch. We have a platform called Oset that we use to help our customers build this content. And a lot of the needs that I talked about that you would end up with when you have a product launch need, we actually address. Make it very easy to create original content and import existing content, edit it in place. All pages are live, so everything is web-based. You have the ability to download and use offline, et cetera, but everything gets, finally synced on a frequency of your choice. Which what that means is you have very rich content tracking ability. So you can track by geo, you can track where your drop-offs are happening. If your videos, if you have a 3-minute video and everybody drops off at the 45-second mark, you get reports on that. You get reports on what kind of searches are people doing within the platform that we are not resulting good data for. So all that. we have the ability to split content based on what you want fully available to your customers, or you want customers to register before they can drill down beyond a certain point. You have, if you want content to be accessible only to your field or partners, so you can put it behind your enterprise SSO. So we integrate with your single sign-on infrastructure, with your existing enterprise single sign-on infrastructure, so only field and partner personnel can see that content. We provide learning paths and reinforcement, so flashcards, quizzes, etc., to make sure that your salespeople can actually figure out if they have learned enough or they need to read through the material one more time. And obviously, in today's day and age, we want everything available on mobile and tablet. So we have a application that you can run on your tablet or phone that gives you access to all of this content and allows you to save it offline for, in case you're getting on a flight and you need to prepare for your sales meeting at the end of that flight. So please, so we have free trials at Oset.io. Please give it a whirl and see if it's useful to you. I'm always happy to hear feedback. So please reach out to us and let us know how we are doing, if you're finding the platform useful, if there are additional features that you'd like to see. We are a young company. We are rapidly evolving the platform to make it more useful to our customers. That's all I had for today. Thank you for attending the webinar. Hope you find the material that I had useful. We will share the slides with you, and so you have them for easy reference. Thank you.